Lloyd Smith. The Guru Speaks. The Guru Speaks. Lloyd Smith.
They tell me that I am a guru. I had a contest chair, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. Several years ago, people began emailing and calling me to ask for advice about contest speaking. I think they didn't want to hire a real coach, and they knew my number. I thought that, and then they began telling me that I was their speech guru. I thought I should increase my guru credibility by looking into what some of the former world champions said about contest speaking. The main thing I learned from that reading was that there are people who have figured out how to make a living telling us obvious things. Have excellent content. Yeah. Relate to your audience. Oh, there's one I never thought about before. Have a great introduction. Something that reaches out and pulls the audience in. Something that makes them want to hear you speak. Something like the greatest speech introduction I have heard in my 15 years of coaching high school debate. It was a 9 or an 8 a.m. round of senior division expository speaking at the Gonzaga University Invitational Tournament in Spokane. We were in a very strange room. It was at least 30 feet wide, but no more than 8 or 10 feet deep. There was one row of student desks along the long wall, which meant the speakers were going to be almost close enough for me to touch. I called the first contestant's name, or code number, and an average-looking kid stood up. Sport coat, white shirt, tie, a pleasant expression on his face. He looked at me and said, "Are you ready?" And I said, "Anytime you are." He looked down for a moment, then suddenly said, "Ki!" and lashed out with his foot. I could see the bottom of his shoe coming right at my face. A split second later, I was against the wall, listening to a 10-year-old girl screaming in fear. And then I realized that little girl was me. The other contestants were on their feet screaming too. And then the door burst open, and at least 25 people from the surrounding rooms ran in to find out what emergency had just occurred. It took almost 15 minutes to clear the room out, and the kid who had started it all kept saying, I'm sorry, the whole time. After we got the round going, my hand was shaking so badly I couldn't even write comments on my ballots. His speech was about martial arts, and the kick and the scream were his attention-grabbing introduction. They certainly were. I can still see that foot coming in my face today, 35 years later. The experts tell us that on the other end of our speeches, we need a memorable conclusion. Something that makes the judges remember you. Something that makes them want to recall what you told them. Something like the best conclusion I ever heard during my high school coaching days. It was a 9 p.m. round of novice division interpretive reading. The contestants were supposed to read a selection of prose or poetry and using only their voice transmit its meaning. No acting, costumes, or props. There were 4 girls and 1 boy in the group. One by one, the girls got up and read their programs, and I was impressed with how good they were, considering that it was the first tournament of the year, and they were in novice division. And then the boy got up. He was a little guy wearing a sport coat that was 2 or 3 sizes too big for him. His tie was weirdly knotted, and he had a thin, reedy voice that did not support the dramatic material that he was reading. In addition, and worst of all, everything about him just radiated that he did not want to be standing there speaking. He started in reading, and as his program ground toward the end, he got the strangest look on his face, then suddenly lowered his manuscript to his side and lifted his hand to his throat. It sort of fit what he was saying, and I thought, oh great, now I have to penalize him for acting. And then he threw up. Well, he wasn't acting. The girls, the 4 girls, jumped up and ran from the room screaming and gagging, and the boy staggered off after them, coughing and gurgling. As I sat there, I thought, there wasn't anything in my preparation to become a debate coach that had prepared me for that magic moment. I looked out in the hall and I saw a custodian looking down in the direction that the kids had run off. And so I went out to tell him what had happened. He was not happy. He explained to me very clearly that it was the end of his shift, and he didn't want to clean up a mess like that at the end of his shift at the start of his weekend. He said, I'm just going to lock up that door. And he did. I've often wondered what the teacher whose room that was thought on Monday morning when he or she opened that door 36 hours later. Luckily, I'm not going to know. Now, about now, some of you are probably wondering what I have in mind for the conclusion of my speech, particularly Tyler and Jim up here in these great front row seats. Well, they don't have to worry because I've just never enjoyed throwing up. But it occurred to me the other day that it's probably better to throw up during your own speech than it is to have the audience throw up after you're done. And that is the wisdom of the guru. Madam Conrad.